Larry, I think you sent your testimony in beforehand, didn't you? And you even sent in a revised version of it, just so you know that we pay attention to these things. I got your email, and I want to commend you on being prepared.
Thank you.
It wasn't necessary by any stretch of the imagination, but it does show a lot, the thought that you gave to your testimony. You went through it again. I guess you wanted to make some changes, so you sent us a revised version of it. So I commend you on your preparation for this hearing. And I also want you to know that we pay attention.
Thank you. Thank you.
Why don't we start on this end? I'll let you pronounce your name, since I think I probably mispronounced it.
Uziel.
Uziel.
Right.
Can you pull your mic closer?
Sure. Let's see. Does this work?
Yes.
All right. Right. So my name's Usi Phoenix. I'm with the DC chapter of the National Youth Rights Association, and I'll be speaking on the DC curfew.
Go ahead.
All right. With limited exceptions, Washington, D.C.'s juvenile curfew law prohibits youth 16 and younger from being unaccompanied in public places at night. According to the court findings listed alongside this law in the district code, the curfew was enacted primarily to reduce the likelihood that minors will become involved in criminal acts during curfew hours. Reason shows, however, that the youth curfew not only fails to protect minors or prevent juvenile crime, but actively harms our youth and our society. Curfew violations in the District of Columbia are punishable by a maximum $500 fine and 25 hours of community service. Minors who are engaged in illegal behaviors such as drug dealing or vandalism, the crimes that this curfew was instituted to reduce, are already risking far greater penalties and will not be deterred by the curfew. Youths who are conscientiously law-abiding will obey the curfew at the expense of missing social activities, but would have caused no harm had they been allowed outside. A 2003 study by researchers at the University of Maryland that examined D.C. juvenile arrest rates found no evidence that curfews reduce juvenile crime. In fact, the greatest drop in juvenile arrest rate during the 5-year period of the study occurred while no curfew was in effect. Youth is a category defined by arbitrary boundaries. It is impossible to reliably distinguish 16-year-olds from 17-year-olds. 1 year of age is simply invisible. Police officers cannot accuse everyone on the streets at night of a possible curfew violation, and in the absence of obvious age markers, police officers must make their decisions of who to approach based solely on appearance. Short of visibly marking all minors, selective enforcement of curfew laws is their only possible implementation, the subjectivity of which invites discriminatory racial and ethnic profiling. Meanwhile, minors who appear older than their age can safely ignore curfew, while young-looking adults will be needlessly harassed. DC's curfew law puts undue pressure not only on minors but on the city as a whole. Parents must forbid their children from walking down the street at night or risk a $500 fine. Business owners must call the police if they are aware a youth is on their premises during curfew hours or be subject to prosecution. The curfew is a burden on police officers struggling to prevent real crimes, and the amount of paperwork required at each citation is a drain on our already strained budget. Most importantly, curfew laws blatantly violate the civil liberties of those it affects. Though still in effect due to successful appeals, the D.C. curfew has twice been struck down by federal court on the grounds that it is unconstitutional. In 1989, U.S. District Judge Charles Ritchie banned the city from enforcing the curfew, declaring that it subjects the district juveniles to virtual house arrest each night. In the 1996 lawsuit, Hutchins v. District of Columbia, the U.S. District Court granted an injunction against enforcement of the curfew, ruling that it is a well-settled legal principle that the right to free movement is a fundamental right. When applied to youth and adults alike, curfew laws have long been seen as a symptom of authoritarianism. By forcing our youth to accept and obey such laws, we are alienating them from positive civic engagement and teaching our future voting public to passively tolerate government oppression. By disempowering our youth, we are not only committing injustice against the 20% of our population comprised of minors, we are sabotaging our future as the capital of a nation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Larry?
I'm Larry T. Oh, sorry. I'm Larry T. Pretlow II. I'm a resident of Ward 8. I'm the president of the D.C. chapter of the National Youth Rights Association. And as president of the D.C. chapter of the National Youth Rights Association, I understand all too well the difficulties young people have in being heard and being taken seriously. Having a youth hearing for issues like this is a great idea. D.C. needs a permanent avenue for soliciting the opinions of young residents and for giving them direct influence over the laws and rules that govern their lives. It's too often issues affecting young people are decided without their input or involvement. Since 2002, D.C. has had a Youth Advisory Council. However, there are several structural reasons preventing the Youth Advisory Council from doing the most amount of good for the city and our youth. If the D.C. Youth Advisory Council is to be a credible representative of our city's youth, it needs to be able to speak freely and independently. YAC is unable to do this. Pressure has been placed on the Youth Advisory Council to prevent it from speaking out against the mayor or his policies. As long as YAC continues to be under the power of the mayor's office, it will never be able to speak freely or to be a true voice for youth. NYRA-DC strongly urges that the Youth Advisory Council be made independent from the mayor's office. I'm also concerned whether YAC truly represents the needs and wishes of the district's youth. Many youth are not even aware of the Youth Advisory Council and fear yet regularly communicate with their representatives on the council. I myself, running for ANC Commissioner in Ward 8, know that there is nothing that connects a representative to the people better than running for office and campaigning for votes. To make YAC a true representative of DC's youth, we strongly urge that YAC members be elected once a year by high school students. Finally, there is nothing more disempowering than to be promised an opportunity to be heard, express your views, and impact the lives of district residents, and then be ignored. As you can see here today, there are many youth with opinions about D.C. laws because so many of D.C. laws affect them. To truly be given an opportunity to represent the interests of youth, the Youth Advisory Council must be given real decision-making ability on the D.C. City Council. Unlike other D.C. residents, young people under 18 cannot vote for the mayor, cannot vote for the council, cannot vote for ANC or any other office in the city. They are taxed but are not represented. To ensure YAC is fully able to represent our youth, we strongly urge that YAC be given one vote to the D.C. City Council. Our city knows what it's like to not control its destiny. Our city knows what it's like to face taxation without representation. Our city knows what it's like to have a non-voting delegate. Please do not disenfranchise young people for the way that D.C. is itself disenfranchised. Please do the right thing and give our youth a real voice, a real say, and a real vote. Thank you.
Thank you for your candor. Larry, you were pretty straightforward in your testimony. You said that, let me see, let me make sure I got it in front of me. You said that pressure has been placed on the YAC to prevent it from speaking out against the mayor or his policies. Can you expand on that?
I don't know the exact details of the situation, but there has been, when I was doing my research, I found there's been occurrences where the Youth Advisory Council disagreed with some of the mayor's policies, and they can't speak out against them because they're under his office. They come under the mayor's office. So if you are a Youth Advisory Council, you're supposed to be kind of like the youth level of the council. So the council speaks out about things that they disagree with. So the youth.
Boy, don't we?
Huh?
Go ahead, Larry.
Oh, that's.
Are there particular policies that you know of that the YAC has been told that they couldn't speak on?
I can't tell you that right now.
Okay. Well, how do you know that this occurred? Because it's a pretty serious allegation.
I'm friends with someone who was on the Youth Advisory Council, and they were basically telling me that if they can't speak out, number one, because they're under his office, and that there's a lot of times where they learn things and they want to share it with other young people, but they can't really share it because it would be going against the office that they're, kind of like if you work for the D.C. government, you can't talk against the government. So that's one of the things.
Okay.